What if the thing you feel most unqualified for is actually the very thing that God is calling you to do? And what if your fear isn't a sign to stop because, hey, we all get afraid, but instead, what if it is actually the proof that God is calling you to step into something more and bigger than you ever imagined you would be a part of? Well, by the end of this video, you're going to see, I'm hoping, that your calling is something more than you ever imagined it was. I hope that you will see your calling the way that God sees it, not through your past, not through the things that you imagine determine your purpose, but that you would see it through something much, much bigger. Because the truth is this, right now, there are people who are actively crying out for help. You may have never even met them or heard of them before, but God is looking for someone to send to be the answer to their prayers, and it might just be you. We're going to look at a story in the Bible today that God used in my own life to really radically impact the way I perceive my calling and help me to step into something bigger. So by the end of this video, I believe that's exactly what is going to happen. Now, we're just going to read this story. It's from the book of Exodus, chapters 2 through 4. When I was really young in, not my faith, but young in leadership, I was stepping into a new role. I was going to be a pastor of a student ministry, and it was a large ministry. It was something bigger than I had ever been a part of before. I was going to have volunteer leaders who were responsible to me, and students and ministry programs to lead, and teaching on a weekly basis, and all of that was going to be very, very new to me. And I remember lying on my back on the floor, praying to God with all sorts of thoughts, all the ones you probably have thought. Like, God, who am I that I should be doing this? I can't do this. I don't have the ability to do this. I don't have the capacity. I've never done this before. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to mess up. This felt so important that if I botched it, like people's eternities are on the line. That was significant. That was scary for me. And as I'm laying there on the ground, praying, just in a posture of prayer, the Lord spoke to me. And unlike any time that maybe he ever has before, he simply said, turn to Exodus chapter 2, verse 4. You may not believe this story, but this is exactly what God said to me. And at the time, I didn't even know what was in this chapter. I had no context. And so for God to tap me on the shoulder and say, turn to Exodus chapter 2, verse 4, I in that moment just said, you know what? I'm going to do that. And I picked up my Bible, and this is what I turned to. And this was the Lord's message to me. I'm praying that it will be a message of encouragement, maybe challenge, but also equipping and empowering for you. May we never be the same. The Egyptians have become a strong empire. They're the strongest empire in the world at this point in time. And the Hebrew people are slaves to them. They've been slaves for 400 years. 400 years of oppression. And in fact, right here in chapter 2, verse 23, it says, during those many days, the king of Egypt died. So he passed away. And the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery, and they cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. Okay, let's pause for a second. Because this verse, some things you might want to underline. It says right here, they cried out for help. The fact that they cried out for help, it tells us God actually heard them. God heard their groaning. We know that when we call out, when we pray, when we scream to the heavens for help, God hears. And that's really important because God is actually about to answer. It says that he began to provide for them. It makes me think of 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 4, that says, if my people will humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, and I will heal their land. That verse right there tells us that God hears and God provides. And right here, we see God hear and we see God begin the path of provision. If you look closely, it then zooms in. Chapter 3 doesn't really explain how is God going to answer, but we see now Moses. Moses is keeping a flock for his father-in-law. He finds himself wandering, and he sees a bush that's off in the distance. It's burning, but it's not being consumed. It's not burning up, and it draws his attention, and he shows up. Now, let's just read the chapter. Please read it with me, and just listen to God's words. I wonder, have you ever heard this as your own conversation with God? It says, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire. Verse 2, out of the midst of the bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I'm going to turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, I just wonder immediately right here, are we even paying attention in our lives? Are we paying attention to the signs of God when he wants to get our attention and speak? And are we going slow enough that we are willing to step off of our path to respond to the Spirit's prompting? Or are we too busy doing our own thing, pursuing our own goals, or just distracted by the things of this world? Moses was paying attention. He saw the bush, and he actually turned aside. Now, when he does this, God says it's holy ground. He tells him to take off his shoes, and Moses walks up. Verse 7, the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their suffering, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey. God is saying, hey, I've heard their affliction. I've heard their cries. I've seen it. I know what the Egyptians have been up to, and I am ready to rescue them today. I have come down to deliver them myself. That's good news. God is coming. And how is God going to show up? How is he going to break in? Is he going to reach in with a mighty hand and rip the Egyptians out and grab the Israelite people and set them free? No, he says he's going to do something different. Look at verse 10. He says, come, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Now, this is God's answer to anyone who cries out today. He hears crying and affliction and pain and suffering all over the world. If you're like me, you see some things that just grab your heart. You're stirred by God for some things. Maybe there's a vision in your heart of something you want. I know Moses wanted the people to be free. Maybe you want to see a people free. Maybe you see someone in captivity. Maybe you see something wrong in the world and you feel compelled. Won't God do something about it? And the promise is God is always on the move to do something about it. But here he says, I'm not going to do it by my mighty hand directly. No, Moses, come, I'm going to send you to Pharaoh. Moses hears this, and I can't imagine how he would feel. I know that I don't know that I would want to go to Pharaoh. Think about it. Pharaoh is the leader of the most powerful nation on the planet. An entire Hebrew people are slaves in captivity, and God is saying, hey, Moses, you're going to go to this corrupt king, and you're going to tell him to let my people go. He's going to listen to you. I don't know if I'm going to go to Pharaoh, like the most powerful man. He's got armies, and you want me, little old Moses, little old Khalil, little old you? I'm going to go to the king and tell him what to do? I don't know about that. So look what it says. It says, but Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? Good question. He said, this is God, but I will be with you. And this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? And what shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am, or I am. But God is saying, like me, just tell them I am has sent you. Say to this people of Israel, I am sent me to you. He's essentially saying, tell them that the pre-existent God of the universe is the one who is sending you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has appeared, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt, and I promise that I will bring you out of the afflictions of Egypt. So he's saying, Moses, go, you're going to tell him, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remind them who it is that is speaking, and you're coming on his behalf. Let's go down to chapter 4. Then Moses answered, but behold, they're not going to believe me or listen to my voice. For they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. The Lord said to him, what is this in your hand? And he shows him some signs. He says, this is a staff. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he throws it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses gets scared and he runs from it. Verse 4, chapter 4. But the Lord said to Moses, put your hand out and catch it by the tail. So he put his hand out, he grabs it by the tail, and it became a staff in his hand again, transformed. And he says that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you. Again, the Lord said to him, put your hand inside your cloak. He puts it in his cloak, and when he took it out, it's got leprosy like snow all over it. He puts it back in his cloak and he pulls it back out, and it's totally healed and restored. Like God is showing him some divine power here, miraculous signs proving who he is. But let's keep going, because that wasn't enough for Moses. Verse 10, but Moses, notice the big but there, but Moses said to the Lord, oh my Lord, I'm not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue. Then the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Like, do I not know this about you? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth to teach you what you shall speak. But he said again, oh my Lord, please send someone else. See this great need, but God, I'm not the one. Please send someone else. And God actually gets irritated with him. But in his patience, he says, you shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth to your brother Aaron. He shall speak for you. I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will teach both of you what to do. I will teach you both what to say. And take the staff in your hand and go. Well, in this moment, the people are crying out. God is answering their prayer. He's providing a rescuer, someone who is going to save them. But this rescuer, he's not some champion. He's not mighty. He's not like, absolutely, I'm going to respond to this call and I'm going to go and I'm going to be obedient. No, he balks at it. When Moses is responding to his great calling, Moses doubts three things. He doubts his identity, his authority, and his ability. Look at them real quick with me. When it comes to his identity, he says, who am I that I should go? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? That's verse 11 in chapter 3. When you look at questioning his authority, he says, behold, they're not going to believe me or listen to me and my voice. When it comes to his ability, he says, Lord, I'm not even eloquent. I'm not a good speaker. I don't have the skills and the abilities you would need from a leader for me to even obey and do this. And what's amazing is while Moses is petrified, he doubts his identity, his authority, and his ability, I want you to look at God's response for a moment, because it's totally different than you might expect. To each one of these things, God has a response. When Moses doubts his identity, God responds and he says, I will be with you. I have sent you. He's saying it's never been about your identity and your ability. It's about my identity. I'm the one sending you. When it comes to authority and your influence, he says in verse 15 of chapter 3, say to the people, the Lord, I am, has sent me to you. Moses, it's not about your authority or the influence you carry. I am the one with ultimate authority and I am sending you. When it comes to your ability, Moses is like, hey, I don't have the speech. I don't have the skill. I don't have the technical know-how. God is saying, who made your mouth? Who made your ability to speak? Do I not know your capacities and your abilities? Do I not know your limitations? Is it not I, the Lord, who made that? And yet he says, I will be with your mouth. Moses, it was never about your ability to do it in the first place. It's always been about my ability, says God. And even more than that, when Moses says, please send someone else, I don't want to go, he still chickens out. He's still fearful. He still is focused on his limitations. I'm amazed by the grace of God because he doesn't just provide for all of those things, which is enough, but he goes one step further and he provides community. He says, is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. I will teach you both what to do. God gives him a buddy. He gives him community. He gives him a team so that Moses doesn't need to be in this alone, but he can go in confidence with someone else. We may doubt our capability to fulfill our calling because of who we are, because of our own perceived influence or our own sense of our abilities. We look at ourselves and we go, there's no way that I could ever do those things. But God has already provided for all of them. And so I'm here to tell you that calling is not about our identity, but the identity of our God. It does not depend on our authority, but it depends on the authority of the one who has called us. And it is not contingent on our ability or lack thereof, but the ability of the one who is with us and who has told us to go. This is the God who did the 10 plagues. This is the God who overcame the Egyptians. This is the God who parted the sea and set a people free. And this God calls us to be a part of answering the cries of people we have never even met. So what has God asked you to do? Where has he asked you to go? What's something in your life that you know you have been told by God to pursue, but you've been too scared to step into? For all you know, you are the answer to a generation of prayer. I say go because you have been focused on your own limitations rather than fixing your eyes on the sovereignty and power of God. Go because God makes a promise, and it's the same one that he made to Joshua when he was anointed as leader to guide Israel into the promised land. He said to Joshua in chapter 1, verse 9 of that very book by his name, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. When the Lord hit me with these words and with this chapter, as I was responding to my call, this is the passage that gave me the boldness to go because I realized it's not based on me. It's based on his ability. It's based on his capacity. It's always been based on who God is. So look at this verse, this small story. We can see that God shows us other people just like us the same limitations responding to their calling. And God reminds us that it was never about us in the first place, but about him, his ability, his power, his authority, his identity, all for his glory. All he asks for us to do is step out in faith to believe that he'll answer. And I know that sometimes when you're facing a big Red Sea, you just got to have the faith to put the staff in the water and see what God will do. I hope you'll respond to his call.